Hey guys, Nick Horton here, the Iron Samurai, and this is another episode of Weightlifting Academy, which means it's time for you to go to weightliftingacademy.com and grab your free copy of the 7 Deadly Sins of Weightlifting, which is yours for free at weightliftingacademy.com. So I promised today not to kill you, but you might die, because we're going to talk a little bit about stuff that looks like math, but I promise, it's not really math, it's still weightlifting. But it does involve cool graphs, and it won't take very long, so take a deep breath, stop crying, and we'll get back to what it is we're about to do. So, you all have a big problem. The big problem is you don't get the bar to your hip successfully most of the time when you're pulling it off the floor, when you're doing a snatch or a clean. And most of the time, this is a seriously easy thing to fix, and all you got to do is slow your shit down. You're going fast. You pull off the floor ridiculously fast, and when you do that, it's extremely hard to make sure that bar gets back into you, because you've just created a trajectory off the ground that goes whoop, like that, or even like forward, because you're exploding so hard with a weight that is not actually that heavy. Now here's the problem. Most of you have been doing deadlifting for a very long time, and that's the appropriate response to a deadlift, because the deadlift, to be maximally efficient, we're talking about being able to move huge weights from the floor to the hip as much as you possibly can. And getting it off the floor is for so many people the hardest possible thing. So the acceleration curve, and by acceleration I mean the rate of change of speed, I know, sorry, Google it, is this. You start crazy fast off the floor, and as the bar comes closer to your hip, the bar tends to slow down. That's not universal. This is just like a mock-up. But that's pretty darn close. People are exploding as fast as they can. And then when they get over here, it's like they're hitching and spitting and crying and weeping. And then finally they get to the hip. And it takes quite a long time sometimes from the knee up to the hip. That is the precise opposite of how you snatch or how you clean. And the reason is because your goal is not to lift really heavy weights to the hip. That's what a deadlift is. Your goal is to get to the hip successfully in the proper position so that you can explode maximally and get that bar over your head in a snatch or onto your shoulders in a clean. And that is impossible if you're not in the right position. Getting to the right position, the hip position, is everything, absolutely everything about going from the floor to the hip. It's the only thing that matters. Everything else is secondary. You don't need a lot of momentum or any of that crap because it's not that heavy. I don't care how strong you are or how efficient you are on a clean, it's still way lower than your deadlift. So that's not even a concern. So really what you want out of a snatch or a clean is an acceleration curve, that is the rate of change of speed, Google, that goes like this. Really slow at the beginning when you're coming off the floor. Really slow for a long time. And then finally when you get right up next to the hip, and I mean like really close to the hip, maybe a couple inches. I do not want you speeding up at the knee. You're not advanced enough for that. Later on we'll talk, but not right now. Right now I want you to go crazy stupid slow until you get right up next to your hip, and then explode as fast as you possibly can. And all of this rate of change of speed happens in the tiniest little spot. That's good, because that means you're not going to throw yourself out of position, because I said again, you don't have a big need for momentum, because the weight's not that heavy. It's a snatch or a clean. It's way less than your deadlift. That's not the concern. You're not like, oh my God, I'm never going to get this thing to my hip. The concern is, are you going to be in the right spot when you do get the bar to your hip? And the answer to that is probably not if you go too fast. So this looks a lot like, I drew it badly, but it's supposed to look a lot like an exponential curve, where you basically have very little motion in an upward direction. It is technically getting faster from the floor up, but not by a lot, until you get all the way up right to your hip, and then you explode at maximum as hard as you possibly can into that hip. That's the proper way of thinking about a snatch or a clean. So in other words, if you have this tendency of either jumping forward a lot or never actually touching your hip ever on a snatch or a clean, the best way usually for most of you to fix this problem, or the most instantaneous way to fix it, is just slow it down. Slow it down. You're going way too fast. You keep thinking of it like it's a deadlift, but it's not a deadlift. It's not that heavy. You need to go slower. Even if it feels really heavy and feels really awkward and weird, that's okay. Because again, I know you can get this to your hip. I believe in you. You can definitely get a snatch to your hip. But can you actually touch your hip and explode at maximum in the correct way? That's going to come down to whether or not you had the patience to wait long enough to do it. So that's what we were talking about. Slow it down off the floor, be chill, 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 and then when you get really close to your hip, bam! Explode as hard as you possibly can. All right, so the math is now done. We go into really great detail into the snatch and how to do the snatch correctly from the top down, everything. Nitty-gritty stuff at snatchdomination.com. We have a whole free course that's coming out. It's easy. You just go to snatchdomination.com, sign up, super duper free, and cool stuff. I talk a lot. We learn a lot. It's fun. All right, see you next time.